fortunate, I feel blessed that I was able to live this long and see the things that I've seen that I never dreamed of when I was graduating from high school. But I've been alive by the grace of God. Nothing ever turned out like I expected.
As a children's hematologist-oncologist, I treat many different conditions and diseases. Certainly one of them is hemophilia, and I've been involved in hemophilia treatment and care and research for, 33 or 34 years now. Hemophilia really is very much different from all of the other conditions that I treat and that I'm involved with.
I only had a pediatrician, which the only thing she knew about hemophilia is, what little she read in her medical books, because she didn't have any other patients like me. We'd just mostly do wait and see if it's going to get better. Ice packs and, compression on the swelling if we could. Mostly, like especially if I had a knee swelling, I'd sleep with my leg in a trash can full of ice cubes all night long.
The things have changed more in hemophilia care in the last 30 years or so, more than in any other of the diseases that I treat. And the changes have just been amazing. I started out in hemophilia in the early 1970s, and it was very shortly after concentrates really had been discovered. Prior to the mid-1960s, all there was plasma.
They found out after the war that everybody treated with dried plasma invariably contracted hepatitis.
Yeah, the question is sometimes asked, what's the worst type of hemorrhage or worst bleeding that I've ever seen? And certainly the most devastating and that can be fatal or damaging is bleeding in the brain.
I hit the back of my head on a tree, and my brain crowned. My father grew about an hour away from the hospital. My father drove his Chrysler like crazy to get there, and they kept me up for 48 hours. At that time, Factor was out, and they kept pumping me full of Factor. CAT scans, well, back then, as best they could make it. It was bad. I really didn't think I was going to live through it.
Other places where I've seen very bad bleeding occur, in addition to the obvious painful bleeding and hemorrhage in the joints, is very, very large bleeding in the muscle, particularly the muscles around the hip and around in the back.
Probably my most serious bleed was in college on a hip bleed, and I had walked into a barbell in the middle of the night in my bedroom, and when I woke up the next morning, I couldn't even stand up. And that was right before I went off to college, and I got that taken care of almost. And when I was in college, I remember I went home for my sister's wedding, and it was almost well. And I walked up the stairs and slipped and fell and hyperextended my hip. And I'm like, wow, this hurts. But it went away, like most feelings do when you initially hit your joint or whatever. And then when I got home, or got about halfway to get a Coke, and between Nacogdoches Exit and Corpus Christi, I couldn't even hardly stand up straight. And I knew at that point, wow, this is going to be bad. One
thing I really want to say about where we still need a lot more research is people with an inhibitor. Some patients are left with this antibody that blocks factor VIII, so you can't treat with factor VIII. And we have some unfortunate patients with this problem who have persistent regular bleeding in the joints, suffering severe pain and disability, a lot more research is necessary to find better treatments for them.
I was diagnosed with an inhibitor when I was 19. I took no factor for years, and then in the mid-90s I did an immune tolerance, which was effective, and I worked within a year and was able to get my joints replaced that were damaged and go on regular therapy, and I haven't had a bleed in close to 10 years.
big breakthrough in the late 60s and early 70s was concentrates. We were very excited about that. So that's kind of when I got in the field, and it was really changing the lives of people with hemophilia. But then came HIV, and in the early 1980s, not only HIV struck, but also the realization that hepatitis was a major problem.
My cousin, Danny, he passed away in 1990 through complications of HIV. And also remembering, the stories of Brian White, and knowing that, kids, seeing that on TV, because that kind of became, I guess, kind of an infamous story. This 13-year-old, or 13-year-old who was discriminated against because of his, because he had HIV. Oh, by the way, he was also hemophiliac. That kind of, combined the two, and I think a lot of people then kind of assumed, oh, everyone who has, hemophilia must have HIV. Oh, stay away from them.
So I see really right now evidence every day when I'm in clinic of persons with hemophilia leading a normal life, and that's going to be our goal for all patients in the future.
My daughter is a carrier, so my grandsons have a 50-50 chance of having hemophilia, and it's not as scary as it used to be. Nowadays, the products are getting so much more convenient to use, and hopefully you're staying purified and safe, that these new guys coming up have a real good chance of being able to treat themselves consistently and discreetly if they want to, and be able to participate in the activities around them with their family and their friends.
You have the luxury of having the medicine, so use it and live the life that you want to live.
The main thing you want to be is normal.
We didn't have factor, we had cryoprecipitate.
My life expectancy was somewhere between 12 and 17.
The people I've gotten to meet in this community have really changed my life.
My faith has certainly helped me out through it.
I've got a great life, I've got a great family and children.
Don't let hemophilia stop you.
And that's all of my life.